Wait. Here's some words from the Hindu tradition. One translation of Om Shanti is simply peace. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Peace to my brothers, peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul. Peace to my brothers, peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Peace to my brothers, peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul. Peace to my brothers and peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Peace to my brothers, peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul. Peace to my brothers and peace to my sisters, peace to the world and peace to my soul.
Good morning. Do we have enough chairs where you want to be? Be sure and put yourself in the shade if you need to. Try to keep we have a whole list here of our guidelines that we're supposed to be following, and we would love to follow those. So if you don't know what they are, there's a sheet on the table behind the sign, I believe, that has our guidelines around. Mostly we just would like to keep the distance, and if you feel comfortable wearing the mask, we are doing that as well. So welcome to our summer service. We're going to be doing this outside here throughout the whole summer, and when September ends and October comes, we will reevaluate what we're doing. We'll see where we're at, and we will let you know what's happening then. Let's see, I have a couple other announcements maybe.
And thanks to the weather, yesterday morning I thought we'd be out here
Gorgeous.
with our umbrellas.
Yeah.
And
Really?
thanks to our friend, our tree, that acts as a big umbrella for all of us.
Yes, it's beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And whoever does that magic lawn keeping, thank you for that too. So, okay, what do I want to say here? Oh, so this coming Wednesday night is the 5th Wednesday, and it is going to be such a surprise that I don't even know it yet. Right? Neither does Dave. So we'll be talking about that. So watch your email. We'll send something out for that Wednesday night. Not quite sure what that will be yet. We also have a YouTube channel. You probably all know that. We have been posting or uploading these services onto our YouTube channel, and then I email those out for anybody who is not comfortable or cannot for some reason come. They still get the whole service on the YouTube channel. It helps us if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I didn't realize that before, but it helps us in different ways of how we can utilize YouTube. Right now we can't YouTube live for longer than 30 minutes. I think when you have 1,000 subscribers, you can. So you might subscribe to that channel, but just take a look on YouTube. We have all the other things that we've put on throughout this whole time of sequestering, music from David and Tamra, some prayers if you wanted to use them, music from Roy. So that's been kind of a cool thing to have as our YouTube channel. Visit that. I told you about the updates for COVID. Anything else? Okay. I think that's it for announcements. Our July focus, here we go, continuing. Our July focus is Let Freedom Ring. This is the fourth and the last Sunday for that. So we've had some history lessons. Me, much more than you. I've read so much and learned so many things that I probably should have learned in school, but for some reason they didn't seem to be interesting to me then. But it's been very interesting. Well, they taught it, I remember, but I wasn't interested. And I'm interested now, as many of you may be interested. It behooves us, it's in our best behalf to be interested and be paying attention. So we'll finish that out today. Why don't you just look around and appreciate each other right now? In all of our glory, here we are meeting together, singing songs like Om Shanti, peace to my brothers, peace to my sisters. We're making a difference. I hope you know we're making a difference. Here we are, we're doing it together, we're changing our world. So thank you so much for being here today with us. Okay, so does everybody have a handout where we have our vision and mission on the front side and our affirmations on the other side? If you don't have one, you need one, raise your hand, we can get you one. So let's all take this moment right now to speak our vision and mission together. Maybe just take a minute to get yourself into that heart space. The reason we come here, what we're learning, what we're practicing together here, realizing that there is a oneness, an essence underneath everything, a oneness underneath everything. And we go to that oneness first, so that when things come out of our mouth, it's in alignment with what we believe is the truth, and that is the oneness under everything, which is love. So let's speak our vision and mission together right now. This center offers a path for awakening to the realization of oneness. Open hearts, inspired life, empowered love. Our spiritual community welcomes all people to embrace oneness as the truth of our being. Together we see a world of love, peace, and abundance for all. And our mission? We recognize and realize the omnipresence of divine love as the truth of all.
a quiet place, a quiet place within my heart, and I will listen, Holy Spirit, I will listen. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will listen, Holy Spirit, I will listen. I will make a quiet place. I will make a quiet place. I will make a quiet place.
And in this beauty and freshness of a brand new morning, I let go of the busyness and invite you to join me also in this inner silence, the place where life itself lives as each of us. That life is infinite, eternal aliveness, divine wisdom, unconditional love, forever energized, vital, and intelligent. I call this life God. I am a beloved creation of this eternal aliveness, and this is true for each and every one. And as I speak this word for myself, I speak for each of us. For as a dynamic creation of infinite life, the spirit within brings fresh new awareness each moment. Spiritually awake, we identify with great ideas to live fully and completely. The spirit within refreshes me. It refreshes each of us as we are saturated with the essence of life. Joyously alive, we allow divine energy to flow through and accomplish all things with grace and ease. One with God's wisdom, we align ourselves with right activity, inviting and allowing Spirit to guide and direct us to that which is our highest good. We encounter each person with a healthy expectation of happy, healthy connection. Divine life flows through us in new, fresh, and vitally aliveness each moment. And we live from this center with delight and youthful vision and wisdom. Turning to the prayer request, the desires of your heart, I bless each one, knowing that they are enfolded in love, peace, ease, and comfort. Each is energized with divine wisdom and right activity, manifesting in health, joy, compassion, and abundance of life. That life is whole right now. I bless the volunteers today that give of their time and service, for we are their recipients, and we are so blessed. The service opens our minds and hearts to receive a greater understanding and experience of living the divine life. And I give thanks for this freedom that is ours to embody, for our spiritual awakeness, and with gratitude for this aliveness and freshness, I know that we are forever young in spirit. So I release this word in joy and confidence, knowing it is already so, as we join together and declare, and so it is.
Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. 'Cause here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Get ready, my soul.
I'd like to call your attention to the prayer chest right on the other side of the sign. If there is something weighing you down, if there is something that is blocking your knowing the truth for yourself, please put your request in the prayer chest, and I'll be doing affirmative prayer this week, knowing the truth of your situation, and there is always movement of some sort. So my quote for today: we must be free, not because we claim freedom, but because we practice it. That was William Faulkner. And from Ernest Holmes: man has self-choice, or he would not be a person. And having choice implies there must be more than one thing from which to choose. The very freedom with which he is endowed makes it possible for him to use that freedom, at least temporarily, in a way that will restrict him. Otherwise, he would not be free.
Okay, so this week we are going to wrap up the writings that I based everything on this whole month. Was called 4 Freedoms, 4 Responsibilities. It was written by Darren Walker. He's the president of the Ford Foundation. And today I would like to share about the 4th freedom. And that was, he based his writings on Franklin Roosevelt's iconic 1941 Four Freedoms speech. And the fourth freedom that Roosevelt talked about in there, and we'll talk about today, is freedom from fear. John Lennon said, "There are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance." So in Darren's writings, he says, at the time of Franklin Roosevelt's speech in 1941, the idea of freedom from fear was that no one should live in fear of military aggression from other countries. A peace which, ironically, might require military action to achieve. In the long term, Roosevelt imagined a worldwide reduction of armaments as part of his Four Freedoms message, and presumably he envisioned a world where the instruments of global conflict would not exist on such a massive scale. That's quite a vision, isn't it? When we consider the world today, it's easy to see the varied threats to a healthy peacetime life, which we talked about last week, the freedom from want. It's easy to see those threats and the advance of fear on so many fronts even today. Some of those threats still fall into the military category, but others are environmental, they're ideological, or political. He says, scanning the headlines each morning, there are specters of danger on every page. Climate change and its impending consequences, political instability in South America and the Middle East, mass shootings seem to be at least a monthly occurrence, while cyber attacks and terrorism remain an ever-present threat. On an individual level, there's fear about not being able to pay the bills or put food on the table. Every day, people fear how they will be treated based on their ability or their skin color or their faith or their sexual orientation. There's fear that you will be denied the right to determine your own future or to rise as high as your talent and hard work will take you. Fear seizes upon our differences and exaggerates them, and almost always compels society to divide along lines of us versus them. It drives governments, even elected ones, to make decisions that seek to preserve law and order at the expense of freedom and dignity. In other words, fear is toxic to our society because it discourages people from taking the actions that might help us feel safer or make us freer or allow us to heal. And instead, it drives us apart. He says even President Roosevelt, the man who sought freedom from fear for every person around the world, succumbed to its temptations. Only a year after Roosevelt introduced the Four Freedoms, he authorized the relocation of 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent, over 2/3 of whom were U.S. citizens, into concentration camps. Thousands of human beings in this country, women, men, and children, were forced to leave their homes and submit to forced imprisonment, all because of fear. In the 1980s, the United States finally apologized for this atrocity and acknowledged the extent of its faults, an apology that is a rare occurrence, but it did happen. That President Roosevelt and the American people gave in to fear is a useful reminder of the power of fear to shift societies, even those that claim to be paragons of freedom. This reality forces us to acknowledge our difficult history and to recognize that even these four freedoms, important ideals to be sure, are not without their blemishes or shortcomings. And this struggle against fear and its corrosive impact on freedom and democracy is just as relevant now as it was in 1942. That's why this failure to protect freedom in the face of fear reminds us that our words in defense of freedom mean nothing and will mean nothing if we do not act. So he says, with the freedom from fear comes the responsibility to act. If one of the intended effects of fear is that it stifles action, then to oppose fear, we must be willing to act. This is particularly true when the action required is inconvenient or uncomfortable or risky, when taking action might be considered hazardous for our reputations or even dangerous for our careers. Of course, this responsibility to act does not require that we act irresponsibly. Our safety and self-care remain paramount, especially in dangerous times. But if we have the privilege to act, or if our privilege grants us some respite from fear, we must do what we can to create for others those feelings of safety and of being seen. Throughout history, there has been no better guardian of the freedom from fear, no better defender of the vulnerable than civil society. Groups of compassionate, engaged citizens who continue to organize themselves and mobilize others to work on behalf of their communities. They are the immune system of our democratic society against injustice. All these brave men and women speak truth to power. They forge relationships with local communities and understand their concerns. By taking action, they make people feel less vulnerable. Instead of succumbing to fear, they act in spite of it and create the conditions so that others might be free from it. Without protection, our freedoms and rights will face contraction rather than expansion. As certain democratic norms and values fall away, it becomes harder to motivate oneself to act. We get exhausted we even acclimated to the daily onslaught coming at us. There's the oft used image of the frog in the pot of boiling water, who doesn't know to save itself because the problem, the temperature, increases very slowly over time. The lethal moment comes both unexpectedly and inevitably, met not with active resistance, but with passive acceptance. That, as ever, is our choice, to act or to be passive. So Darren Walker finishes with this story. He says, in 1933, Martin Niemöller was happy to see Adolf Hitler rise to power. As a Lutheran pastor and a national conservative, Niemöller believed that Hitler would help put an end to the growing atheist movement in Germany. He said under Hitler's rule, Niemöller saw his country heading in a dark direction. But he believed he and the church were safe. Then, the Nazi government started issuing laws that directly concerned the church. Only after he came under personal threat did Niemöller decide to protest. He was quickly arrested and tried for crimes against the state. His experience is encapsulated by this timeless poem that you might have heard before. This is Niemöller's poem. He said, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, but I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Niemöller spent 8 years imprisoned. Afterward, he dedicated his life to warning future generations of our obligation to act, even and especially when we feel the matter does not concern us. History reminds us that the only way to ensure all of our freedoms, our freedom to speak, our freedom to believe, and to live a healthy, peacetime life, is to take action on behalf of others. And to do that, we must have the moral courage to face not just our fears, but fear itself. A quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She says, there are only two emotions, love and fear. From love flows happiness, contentment, peace, and joy. From fear comes anger, hate, anxiety, and guilt. We cannot feel these two emotions together at exactly the same time. They're opposites. If we're in fear, we are not in a place of love. When we're in a place of love, we cannot be in a place of fear. So I'd like to share this article I found online. It's called, Is It Possible to Be For Something and Against Nothing? The author is Kathy Gottberg. She says, years ago, I read a book called The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, written back in the early 1900s. Some of the language is archaic and the sentence structure worse than mine. Anybody relate to that? But something about the ideas contained in this book resonated with my husband, Tom, and me. We signed up for classes, and over time, that positive philosophy worked its way into many parts of our lives and minds. There is a quote from Holmes that came vividly to my mind this week. That phrase is, find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough not to condemn others out of the burden of his soul. And I will find another Savior, another Jesus, an exalted human being. Kathy goes on to say, it's tempting to make those who see things differently the enemy, and to self-righteously soothe myself with my so-called intellect and reasoning skills as being morally and mentally superior. But where is the compassion? And what does retaliation do except build a wider chasm in a world in desperate need of unity, peace, and understanding? What I believe Ernest Holmes suggests in this quote is that anytime we fight something, anytime we resist something, we only cause it to grow and fester. Even worse is what we ourselves become in the fight. She says the law of attraction philosophy, as taught by Abraham Hicks, backs this assertion with constant reminders that as energy and vibration, we each draw to us exactly what we put out. Strong emotions like anger, hate, fear, and condemnation all return to us with the same ferociousness as what we send out. Like a boomerang, we get what we give. So even if we feel righteousness about our anger, blame, and disapproval, is that what we consciously wish to invite back into our lives with increased velocity? So what happens then, she says? Do we just sit back and let circumstances unfold in front of us that break our hearts? Do we ignore the pain of others and watch while the world around us teeters on the brink of perceived disaster? Again, she says, that is when Ernest Holmes offers more wise counsel. He continues his quote with, find me one person who no longer has any fear of the universe, or of God, or of man, or of anything else. and you will have brought to me someone in whose presence we may sit, and fear shall vanish as clouds before the sunlight. In other words, let us return to the very source of our being and fearlessly be for what we want to see in the world and let go of everything else. She continues, but how do we do that? Number one, she says, be very clear about the type of world you want to inhabit. Want equality and justice for all? Then get involved and champion that at every opportunity. Care about the environment? Get involved in everything available to support the healing of the planet. Concerned about the safety and rights of women, children, and minorities? Then stand up, support, and get involved in organizations in your community and in your country that are doing the work that you want to embrace. Think our political system is broken? Be the person who finds a more equitable solution and change the world. That was all number one. Number two, she says, meditate daily to remind yourself of your true, eternal, spiritual nature. That would be your daily spiritual work. Number three, train your mind to stay focused on the qualities you admire and find healing, like compassion or hope or peace, love or forgiveness. Train your mind to stay focused on those qualities. Ernest Holmes would say, change your thinking and change your life. Number four, she says, avoid shaming or judging anyone who expects you to do what they do to change the world. And certainly don't fight back. Again, if what we give out comes back to us, make sure that you either stay neutral or you give out love. Let others be responsible for their own karma. Number five, support organizations and vote with your dollars for groups and people who exemplify the qualities and characteristics of what you want to see and experience in the world. Number six, become as self-aware as possible so that you recognize when you find yourself slipping slowly or quickly into anger, fear, or revenge. She says at those times, do something proactively to create change or gently remind yourself of your greater self. And here we call that jumping to center or your go-to mantra. Does anyone have a go-to mantra? If you don't have a go-to mantra, it's really easy. Just choose something that automatically means go to center. Get into oneness. Think about God. Think about love. I need it right now, okay? I need to change this anger or this fear, whatever it may be, right now. Okay, go-to mantra. They're pretty easy to make up and they'll change your life. You can do it anywhere. You can say a mantra anywhere. She says, we are not and never have been powerless. Lots of forces in the world might attempt to convince us otherwise, but they are only coming from their own fears, sense of limitations, or inadequacies. We might have conditioned ourselves to believe we can't make a difference, but it isn't true. Each of us has the power to greatly influence ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and our communities. But we can't do that just sitting at home yelling at the television and wishing the world would change. We must get involved and share the very best parts of us. How delicious does that sound? Sharing the very best parts of us. That must be what God had in mind. She says another favorite quote of mine, and I know you've all heard this one, but it's so great. Comes from the poet Rumi in the 13th century. Rumi said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing or right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. When we get rid of the fences we use to separate us from one another, we might find that that field is closer than we imagined. Yes, get involved and work to change the world into a place you want to live, but always remember, the place each of us primarily lives is within our own heart, mind, and consciousness. And we are in charge of how to populate it, regardless of what is going on outside. May we each embrace the highest and best we wish to see in the world, and never forget the smart approach is to always be for something rather than against. So I want to leave you today with some fun ideas. I love this guy's writing from the Positivity Solution website, and it reads, I'm going to give you one simple rule to instantly, yes, instantly make the world a more positive place. You want to know what it is? Oh, you're all so excited.
What is it?
Thank you.
Bring it on!
Bring it on. He says anyone can do it. You don't need any talent, skills, connections, education, and most importantly, you can apply this rule the minute you're done here today. This might sound simple, but the easiest way to make this world a better place is to commit to leaving everything better than how you found it. Everything. Can you imagine how quickly the world would positively change if everyone committed to doing this every single day in every interaction? The good news is that this doesn't mean starting a worldwide nonprofit organization, finding cures for previously incurable diseases, or finally solving that pesky world peace issue. All it takes is doing something to leave everything better than how you found it. It doesn't matter how small the act is either. The only thing that matters is that you're doing something. So he gives a few ideas of literally millions of potential examples. Pick up a piece of litter and put it in the trash. If you see a car parked at an expired meter, put some spare change in it. How about smiling at a stranger? Refill the coffee pot or the copier at work when they're empty. Refuse the urge to engage in spreading gossip, mean-spiritedness, and other mindless negativity. Commit to a random act of kindness, or simply help someone who needs your help. They say, I use this as my daily self-imposed challenge. He says, no matter what, I will leave everything that I touch and every person I meet a little better than how I found them. He finishes by saying, everyone loves to talk about leaving a legacy after they die, or leaving a legacy for their children long after they're gone. I say, screw that. This isn't about this isn't about leaving a legacy when you leave this earth. This is about leaving a legacy whenever you leave a room. The very real truth is that your legacy is being created today, right now, to be specific. All that we have to do is commit to leaving every situation and every person we meet a little better than how we found them. That's it. The world needs us. And whether we're ready or not, our legacies are being written right now at this very moment. The only question is, what will it be? Here's a quote from Helen Keller. She says, I am only one, but I still am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. So if you just take a moment and join me in this prayer. Ernest Holmes. Just relax the best you can. Relax your shoulders. Open that heart space. And take these words as your own, if you choose. He says, we are in bondage only to a false sense of self, because we judge the possibility of the future by the limitations of the past. We all believe that with God, all things are possible. But we must realize that God is an indwelling presence. Therefore, with God in me, all things are possible. When I know and I feel that God presence within me, then all things are possible. We are not only one with God, God is also one with us. There is no separation here. I am one with God. God is all. There is nothing against God because there is nothing outside of God. Therefore, I know God has no problems and cannot be confused. I know that the Spirit in me is my very freedom. There is no bondage in God. Consequently, I am not afraid. There is no confusion in divine mind, and I now realize that my mind is one with divine mind. I endeavor to see the answer to every problem instead of the problem. Instead of looking at confusion, I now observe peace at the center of every situation. Every thought of fear or limitation is removed from my consciousness, and I maintain a good-natured flexibility with myself, playing the game of life with deep sincerity, but with spontaneity. I enter into the God presence quietly, but with great enthusiasm. I refute every sense of duality, and I see God in everything. Right now, I completely accept life in its fullness, and I allow the intelligence of infinite divine right action. Infinite divine right action taking root in my consciousness right now, leading me to clarity in all of my actions. Divine right action is guiding me today. Divine right action is guiding me always. For right action is always in God, and God is always in me. And when I lift my thoughts to love, I am consciously in God, where all things are possible. And so it is. And so I let it be right now.
God, you are every mountain. God, you are every ocean. God, you are every canyon, every inch of earth and sky. God, you are every morning. God, you are every midnight. God, you are every moment, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you. God, you are every sunrise. God, you are every moon glow. God, you are every star shine, every inch of earth and sky. God, you are every springtime. God, you are every snowfall. God, you are every season, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you. 'Cause you are the very breath I breathe, and your perfect love created me. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you.
As the ushers come forth, this is our time to actively participate in that spiritual principle of the law of circulation. So if you'll take your gift in your hand and just know with me that I bless this gift, knowing that it comes from the unlimited supply of spirit. And as I give, so shall I receive as it goes forth, blessing its path. And our affirmation is,
I am a magnet for prosperity as I praise what I love and enjoy.
Divine right action is guiding me today. Everything I ever need keeps coming my way. Divine right action is guiding me today. Everything I ever need keeps coming. What an affirmation! Divine right action is guiding me today. Everything I ever need keeps coming my way. Divine right action is guiding me today. Everything I ever need keeps coming my way. Divine right action is guiding me today. Everything I ever need keeps coming my way.
There's a go-to mantra with a tune to it. That's an excellent one.
and these gifts are blessed, gratefully received, as they go forth in circulation, blessing our center, our community, and our world. And so it is.
We're doing it. So, if there's anyone here that is here for the first time, welcome to CSL. Please stick around, and Tamara will be hanging around up here. She can answer questions if you have any. Tamara can also take your debit or credit card if you choose to tithe or exceptional income or anything that we're doing here on your debit or credit card. She can do that as well, and she'll do that up here. Thank you, Tamara, for that. Prayer request forms are on the table behind the sign. Encourage you to fill out a prayer request form. Lou has graciously been taking those each week, and she puts those into her own spiritual time and does prayer for you. If you put that prayer request in there, she does prayer for you specifically for the whole week. That is pretty darn powerful, in case you don't know, okay? So I would suggest you put that in. Yeah, thank you, Lou. Put that in there for all the great things happening and for maybe the challenging things as well. What it helps to do is release that fear. If you have some fear about anything going on, release it, let go, give it to God. She'll take that and she'll pray on that, and she'll know the truth for you when the truth is hard for you to remember. When we're so close, it can be really hard to let go of fear. So thank you, Lou, for that. Encourage you to fill out a prayer request form. All right. Are we good? Go ahead.
So I just wanted to mention earlier, a little bit ago while we were out here, I thought, boy, you know, funny thing, I'm going to miss being out here with our tree and the birds and things. And then I thought in that moment, it made me appreciate being out here even more, just now. It made me say, yeah, forget about the future. What about how beautiful it is today, right now? So,
Beautiful.
anyway.
Thank you, David, for reminding us always of the beauty available if we just tune in, right? So next month, we have a new month coming. We're going to lighten it up a little bit, not so much history. So come ready to play a little bit next month, okay? For now, we're going to go through our repetitive affirmations. Do you guys have your papers?
Yep.
Okay, so there's 5 of them in a row, and we're just going to go right down. And this is all talking about freedom. This is your last chance here together to claim this. So let's really hear it. I think the neighborhood needs to hear these, right? So here we go. The first one. I am free to question everything. I am free to find my own truth. I am free to look at the world differently. I am free to explore my potential. And I am free of the doubts of others. And so it is.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I'm getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I'm getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I'm getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here.
All right, here's our last affirmation. Say it like you mean it. You got it on the paper? Here we go. My soul is eternal and my mind is free. Woo-hoo!
Sunshine,